Hello, Stampin' Buddies. It's Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I am coming to you on Tuesday, January 14th. It's not quite 11 p.m. I'll post this in a little bit, but hopefully it'll still be before midnight, but still, Late Night Lori strikes again. So, yesterday, I'm not sure when I posted this. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Yeah, it was yesterday because I think that's when we had the full moon. I took this picture and I asked if it inspired anybody to make a card out of what they saw in the sky. Nobody responded yet, but I figured I would do my take on that image, that view that I had. It was gorgeous by me. I have some old stamps that have regular trees without leaves, but I figured I wanted to use something that if you actually wanted to recreate my card, you could actually order what I had. So I used the Grassy Grove stamp set. This is in the annual catalog. I'm just using these two pine trees, excuse me, and I just repeated them across my card, and then I use this for down at the bottom to kind of give it some altitude, I guess. So I'm going to use that, and I am going to use some masking paper. So if you don't have masking paper, this is kind of an essential if you like to do things that you want to leave the white or a lighter color or even a darker color. You could kind of go around depending on where your imagination takes you. But this masking paper is pretty slick. And it is pretty sticky, so I used for my moon the circle here. It's kind of big, but it's a big moon. This is Ascending Love Dies. It goes with another stamp set that's in the annual catalog. So I just use the circle from there. But when I take off the backing, this is so sticky that when you put it on your paper, if you're not careful, you can actually kind of lift off some of your paper, your cardstock. So I usually just take it on my clothes and just put it on there a couple of times to pick up some of those fabric fibers, and then it's a little easier to get off of your paper. So I'm going to hang on to that one because you can use them again. So the one that I used for my sample is going to get used on the card that I'm going to demonstrate. I guess I'll get rid of that because we don't need to have my sample anymore. So I've got a standard card base, 8.5 by 5.5. It's scored at 4 1/4 if you want to do the same color combination that I did. Otherwise, just whatever color base you decide on. And then I have a layer here for my card just because I thought it made it pop a little bit. We can take a look at it and see what you think before I glue everything down. But this is 5 1/4 by 4. And then this layer I just cut as a card front because once I get done with my stamping and my blending, I'm going to go ahead and trim it down to size. All right. So I am going to go ahead and put this moon wherever it is we want it. And I think I might go probably about the same space there. Now, when I do my blending, I always start with my lightest color, and this happens to be Balmy Blue. I think that's what I got. Yeah, Balmy Blue. So I'm just gonna pick up some ink here. I'm gonna go off to the side first so that I can get any really harsh color off. See how that comes that way. And then I'm just gonna kind of start in the center and move out. All right, hopefully you can see that. Just adding a little color around that moon. And I suppose it wouldn't be so critical to try to get the heavy ink off since I'm starting on my mask. But I don't like taking chances. All right, so that's all I'm going to do with the Balmy Blue. And then the next color I selected was my Misty Moonlight, which is the same color that I'm using for the base. And this one, it'll be a little more important to not have those harsh edges because we're not going to start at the center. We're going to start out around these edges a little bit. And we're going to give it that mystical full moon look here, where it's not really foggy, but it's a winter, icy cold night. And it's only about 7 degrees where I am right now, Fahrenheit. Some little pieces of lint there, but I think we'll get those off of there. I think that might be coming from the mask fibers. I think that's probably good there. So let's go to the next color. I am actually going to use some Blackberry Bliss. I didn't on this one, but I wanted these edges to get a little bit darker like the photograph. So I looked at my array of colors and I thought adding a purple shade might work. We'll see how it goes. Now, I don't know if you know, I'm in the Midwest, so I'm in Wisconsin, and Shannon West is our Demonstrator Development Manager, our DDM, and she does a lot with blending brushes and merging colors, and so she actually had done a project, I don't remember what it was, but I remember seeing it, where she did some blending, and I think she used maybe some Gorgeous Grape or something, but some purples that you wouldn't normally expect for the sky, but we'll see how it looks. I did one, I think, one day last week too, like that. And it got a little harsh here, but we're going to be covering that up with the Night of Navy, which is the last color. But you can kind of see how that's all coming together. I've got the lighter blues and then it's heading out. So let's set the Blackberry Bliss to the side and we'll bring in our Night of Navy. And this one, I don't care so much here about taking the color and softening it up because I'm going to come right in off the edge. So I don't think anybody's really going to notice. It is kind of a habit though. And I use just small circular motions. I know I had my guest stamper Riley recently showing how to use blending brushes and commented that you can either use your index finger to control the pressure of the head of the brush, or you can use your thumb. The thumb is a little harder for me because I have some joint issues in my thumbs. So I use my finger, my index finger, and I can see I've gotten ink all over. So this is a risk when you're doing blending like this, that you might get inky fingers. So be warned, don't say I didn't tell you. I kind of like it with that Blackberry Bliss in there. We'll see how the finished project looks. We'll just keep blending this in. And I'm not really so worried about saving any of that Blackberry Bliss as part of the color that's showing, because I'm just doing that to give it a little more color depth as I'm blending my colors. So I don't want it to be obvious that there was another color in there. But those with discerning vision, kind of like a discerning palette, only different, will probably notice that there's another color besides just Night of Navy in there. And then when we take off the mask on my sample, I actually took my Balmy Blue and I just lightly kind of went over the moon so it wasn't in your face white, bright white. And then we're actually going to go a little bit more too and soften it up with some more Misty Moonlight. That Blackberry Bliss might be a little much. I don't know. We'll see. Once the trees and everything get in there, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. And it kind of adds to, not really a fogginess, but like a little light cloud cover. This would make and maybe that's where I saw it, it would make a cool Halloween card if you do Halloween cards. So let's add some more dark here, down at the bottom. Because when we put our trees on in the Memento block, they're still going to stand out on that blue. That's getting to be more how I had it in my mind's eye. I'd still love to see you guys try this out and post what you make in the comments. Of course, that helps my little analytics with Meta. But I like the extra ideas more than anything else. All right, I think that's all I'm gonna do with the Night of Navy. Those edges are getting pretty dark. And then we'll go back with the Misty Moonlight, kind of over that middle, and darken that up a little bit more. So you can see where the edges now are quite a bit darker than on my original sample. And when I did my sample, I was actually working directly on my glass mat, which is nice because it cleans up really easy. I think that's pretty good. So it's a little lighter over here, but that's kind of how the photo was too. So let's just move those things out of the way. We don't really need them. We'll close up my ink. I'm pretty inky already, but who needs to be more inky? So now we can just peel this off and see how bright white that is. I don't know if you can kind of tell the difference. It's pretty subtle, I guess, but I'm not even going to add any extra ink on here. I'm just going to kind of use what's on my blending brush. Normally I do circular strokes, but going across here kind of goes with the whole misty, foggy-ish look. I don't know if you can tell that. But next we'll put on our little ground cover. And again, like I've shown you in some of my other demonstrations, I like to put the ink to the stamp rather than the stamp to the ink. And here I'm not even gonna cover the whole bottom of the card front because my trees, that'll work. My trees are going to cover most of this other part, all right? So I'm just gonna like randomly start doing trees. And I'm gonna put this up here. I didn't before, and I just had all my tree trunks kind of going on top of each other, and I guess it looks all right, but I'm gonna try a little different here. And cover up the bottom of the trunk so that when I put the layers on, it won't be quite so jumbled. And then if you go off, 2 or 3 times, it makes it look like you've got some trees further off in the distance. All right. So let's just keep stamping some trees now. And now I'm just going to start tapping on my ink because it's not going to matter a whole lot. And we'll see how this looks. I might not like it. Who knows? We'll Fill in that little dead spot there. All right. Yeah, I think that works. Kind of looks like a forest. Not so much like my backyard, like the photograph, because I don't live in a forest, but I do have quite a few trees. So then the other thing that I did with this is that I took the sentiment. Sometimes you need to know that someone really cares. And I stamped that right on my card. I did get it just a little crooked, so I'm going to see if I can do this one just a little bit better. With any luck. And if it's still a little slanted, it is what it is. No, that one looks pretty good actually. All right, so then here's the other part of it. This is another thing that I picked up from Shannon West, is that she uses just some of the craft ink, the white, and if you just put a drop down on your block or on your glass mat, and then add from an aqua painter or a water painter. I guess they're called water painters now. They used to be in like an aqua colored cylinder. And if you just add a couple of drops and mix it in, you can kind of decide how much of a whitewash you want. I used 3 drops to 1 on my first one. So we'll see. And then you just make sure that your tip is wet and then just flick. Now, this is kind of like flicking with Wink of Stella, which some people like to do and some people don't. Sometimes it works really well and sometimes it just goes a little wonky. I probably should have waited to put the sentiment on till after I was done, and I did that last on my other card. But I think I'm happy with that, actually. So what I'm going to do is just paint off this white off my brush. Get some water through there. And when it kind of comes out clean, you know it's pretty well cleaned out. And then this I can just rinse under the faucet. Let's get rid of some of these drips here. I'm a messy flicker. And we'll get rid of this. So I'm just going to give that a couple of seconds to dry. And then we'll trim it down so that we can kind of look and see if we want this black mat behind here or not. So let me go trim this down. So I'm just going to take a 1/2 inch off my bottom, or the bottom of the card, and then a 1/4 inch off of each side so that I'm doing it equally between the height and the width. So it'll still be in scale when I put it on my layer. So there's that. I like it with the Blackberry Bliss in there. It really darkens it up a little bit. So there's with the layer of the basic black, and there's without a layer of basic black. Now I could do it with white, and that might make it stand out too. Let's see if I've got a white layer handy. I have one that's not quite to size, so let's get it to size quick. I think I'm gonna get another mic so that if I walk away, it doesn't sound like I'm far, far away. So tell me what you think. Do you like it better with the black mat or the white mat? Because I think both make it pop. And I think if I did the white just a little more narrow, I might like it better, but I like them both. So let me know what you think, this or that. And then when you do your version, make sure that you post it for me, all right? Until next time, happy stamping.